Samsung's latest mid-range A-series smartphones certainly pack a punch, but unlike years prior, the Galaxy A34 and A54 now have more differences than ever before. Here's everything you need to know. So given that the Galaxy A34 and the A54 are part of the same launch A-series, there are some undoubted similarities between the hardware available. The most notable is the adoption of some Galaxy S23 series design traits. Samsung has truly revamped the camera bump, and it now sits flush or almost flush with this chassis. Only the camera lens rings do protrude outwards and forwards. From the rear, I would say that the new devices definitely look very much a part of the S-series, which I think for such an affordable set of phones is actually a big bonus. Things do though start to change when we look a little bit closer. What might not be clear from afar is that the Galaxy A54 actually uses Gorilla Glass 5 on the screen and the black glass panel. For the A34, Samsung has used Gorilla Glass on the screen, but utilised Glasstick on the rear panel. When in the hand, the material changes are actually quite obvious, with the larger phone and cheaper phone weighing 199 grams versus 202 grams on the Galaxy A54, which is also something that might make you think this feels a little bit more premium in the hand. You will also notice that the frosted finishes are not quite the same here either. Glossy finishes are used, with some colour variants, though this helps differentiate the devices yet further still. In a flip of the previous lineup convention though, the cheaper Galaxy A34 is actually 0.2 inches larger than the A54. These smaller bezels help the latter handset achieve a marginally smaller frame without actually ballooning the chassis dimensions themselves. The Galaxy A34 has a 6.6 inch screen, while the Galaxy A54 has a 6.4 inch screen. Both AMOLED panels are rated at Full HD Plus and now have 120Hz refresh rates across the board. That's impressive in its own right, but what's also impressive is the new 1200 nit maximum brightness on both of these handsets. Tough or bright outdoor lighting should be a breeze for either model. You'll just have to decide though if you prefer a punch hole or dewdrop notch, as while they're exceptional screens at their own respective price points, this can be a deal breaker for some. In-display fingerprint scanners, which unfortunately we didn't have proper time to test, are included for biometric security, but alas, like last year, there's no 3.5mm headphone jack for wired audio unless you use USB-C headphones. Hardware differences though do become more apparent when we start to compare the internals of this too. This year, there's actually a divergence as the Galaxy A34 utilises a 6nm MediaTek 1080 processor, and the Galaxy A54 favours Samsung's 5nm internally developed Exynos 1380 processor, and both of these are 5G capable. Side by side, it was actually hard to tell if there was a huge performance boost, but the A54 does have an edge, at least in processing grunt on paper, and that might be more visible and visually apparent when you are using this phone for yourself. There are some differences in other hardware on offer on these two devices too, as the A34 has a base 6GB of RAM variant and an optional 8GB of RAM option when you start to up the storage available. All Galaxy A54 series handsets ship with 8GB of RAM as standard. Storage though for both of these devices is available in 128 and 256GB configurations, with micro SD card support up to 1TB if you wish. Throw in an IP67 rating, 5000 mAh batteries with 25W wired charging support, and either Galaxy A series handset provides a complete experience for any prospective buyer. Again though, no charger is shipping with either device this year, so you'll need a 25W capable power brick or go and pick one of those up to achieve those speeds. Interestingly though, the Galaxy A54 should have better wireless connectivity as it supports Wi-Fi 6. Sadly, the A34 is limited to Wi-Fi 5 connections, but both do ship with 5G connectivity as standard, as you would expect here in 2023. So just like the Galaxy S23, Samsung is shipping the A34 and A54 handsets with the Android 13 based One UI 5.1 pre-installed. That means all of the core functions that have been rolling out to Galaxy phones over the past few months are present on this duo. Longevity though should be assured, as you will get 5-year software update promises. This works out as 4 full operating system upgrades and 5 years of regular monthly security patches on top of that. By the end of its lifespan, the A34 and A54 should be running One UI 9, if that does exist, and Android 17, which is pretty impressive given that these are mid-range phones. When we start to discuss the camera, I think this is here where things deviate once again, despite a similar visually triple camera layout. If you want the best budget camera system, then I think you should probably look at the Galaxy A54 over the A34. Samsung has upped the capability or camera capabilities of this device with an inclusion of a new 50 megapixel sensor. While it's not entirely clear if this is the same sensor used on the Galaxy S23, it does however have very similar specifications with 1 micrometer sensor pixels and a fast f1.8 aperture. The changes actually don't stop at the main sensor here too, with the Galaxy A34 coming with a 48 megapixel main sensor that's paired with an 8 megapixel ultra-wide and 5 megapixel macro camera. On the Galaxy A54, that 50 megapixel main sensor, which could potentially be the one used in the S23, although we're not sure at this stage, is joined by a 12 megapixel ultra-wide and 5 megapixel macro. I think if you value the rear camera system, it's going to be a simple choice, but we're sure that both of these systems are capable and will produce excellent shots in a variety of situations and conditions like many Samsung phones before. What's more though, Samsung has also kept that same 32 megapixel selfie camera on the A50 series handset and stuck a lower resolution 13 megapixel selfie sensor on the A30 series device. So if you value selfies, then you probably should look towards the A54 again over the A34. So if you're wondering which device you should choose, I do think that this year the Galaxy A54 is probably going to be the better device for many of you out there in a number of key ways. The screen itself is marginally better. The base RAM allocation is higher, and the camera system is a slight step up nonetheless. If you're in the market for a mid-ranger that leverages some of the best of Samsung without truly breaking the bank, it could be a great option for you if it's available in your region. What's interesting is that you could make a similar case for the Galaxy A34. Sure, some corners are cut to help keep that price down, but there's enough here that might turn your head, and you will see prices on screen for both of these devices right now. I do think though, with 5 years of software support included, fairly decent internals, and what I do believe is an attractive design, there are a few affordable smartphones going to offer quite as much for under $500. As we know initially though, the Galaxy A54 5G might be a better buy given those screen and camera improvements, but the Galaxy A34 5G definitely still stacks up well. It'll be interesting to see though just how the Pixel 7a is priced compared to Samsung's latest, as this looks like direct competitors to those. One nagging feeling that we do have though, and we feel like we have to mention it, and stops us short of giving the A34 and A54 our full and complete seal of approval, at least at this stage, is the existence of the Pixel 7. While it did launch at $599, since release discounts mean that you can regularly pick up this entry-level flagship for under $500. If you want the best of Google with fewer compromises across the board and a top-tier dual camera system, then I would say look at that latest Pixel, or at least before the Pixel 7a arrives. For everything else, the Galaxy A34 and A54 truly are great alternatives. I want to ask you though, which would you pick and why? Let me know down in the comment section below. It's always interesting to hear your thoughts and reasoning for your decisions. Until next time though, this is Damien with 9to5Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.